That's right. Greetings, fellow Armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And bye.
And Pi, what are we doing here today?
We are discussing the third voyage, project number 4 of Celestial Dreamin in the Armchair Imagineering competition. This was the ACE expedition where teams were able to do any Universal Park they wanted, any theme they wanted. The challenge was the format. It had to be an A ticket, a C ticket, and an E ticket. Specifically that, no more, no less. Obi is taking a little nap. You know how when it gets below freezing, you have to put tarps over shrubs and bushes and
Okay,
plants and
seriously,
stuff?
like real world question here. Y'all doing okay with that shit? Like, holy crap.
I clocked out of work and then found ice on my car. I live in
Yeah,
Central
dude.
Florida. There was ice on my car.
It's
Anyways,
crazy
I've
that
got to
like
put a top.
California is getting like warm weather legitimately, and then in other parts of the country, it's like, yeah, that's crazy.
I've never once in my life seen a chance of snow. And when I opened my weather app and it said 30% chance of snow, it hurt me a little on the inside.
The freaking universal globe was literally like frozen over, like all kinds of like icicles and stuff like sticking to the bottom of it.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun time. But yeah, I forgot to
Anyway,
put a top over Obi, and they're half orange, so they froze. So they have to take a nap for 3 to 5 business days.
oh dear. Okay, well, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this is the fourth project overall. We are kind of making up for lost time. We've had a lot of scheduling issues come up, through no fault of either of us. Just kind of how, like, I'm very busy with my aspiring illustrious fucking stand-up career,
Woo!
and you're very busy with Disney kind of effing you over in the scheduling department a little bit.
It's been a fun time.
Yeah, right. So yeah, this is literally like the first time that you and I have been able to actually get together and do something. So I'm excited.
Yep.
All right.
Ready
Of
to have some fun.
course, do you want to go over like very briefly recap the first few projects? Like we don't have to go into detail about it. Do you want to just kind of very briefly just recap what was done the first few projects?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I know there was Voyage Zero. We did do a podcast on. It was Epic Universe again. Uh, Voyage One was Lost Continent in Islands of Adventure, where it was big grand mythland versus smaller, more focused early American legends and tall tales land. And then there was Voyage 2, which was to replace Rip Ride Rocket. And what was fun to watch for me is this wasn't intentionally a part of the challenge, but all 3 teams took it as part of the challenge to make a new icon for the park in one way or the other, whether that was a literal new icon or just more symbolic, like the Hitchcock one. And it was really
Uh-huh.
fun for me to watch.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to realize, like, Rip Ride Rocket, that is like that was definitely an icon of Universal Florida for sure. So I definitely that was my intention for sure with the tilt coaster is to give that area of the park another kind of like big wow moment of a coaster. And
Yeah.
I'm quite proud of how that Vertigo project turned out. I'm quite proud of it.
Vertigo was great, and both of the
You do? You cut out there. Oh boy.
oh boy, mean you can't hear me?
You literally cut out like, yeah, for like a minute there.
Oh,
And there it is again. Man, we really do not have good luck when it comes to these things. You're either having like noise intrusion issues or yeah, I don't know.
can see all my
It-
ties now.
yeah, if you want, maybe let's just pull up the thumbnail.
Yep.
I think that'll
Bye,
be
Obi.
easy. You guys got the visual reference. All right. So yeah, I mean, I very much, as you know, I very much struggled with that the Islands of Adventure project for whatever reason. I just nothing against the team at all. It's just for whatever reason I just was struggling to get on the same page with a lot of that stuff. But
Which
I
happens.
definitely didn't. Yeah.
And while it might not have been in the same way, a lot of people did struggle with that round. It was, I think the teams are just too big. There was too many like conflicting ideas.
I think that was definitely an issue. Yeah. All right. So, anyways, I kind of feel like I had like a little bit of a miniature version of that this project where here was my mentality going into the what we did this round is that basically everything that was being pitched, at least as far as my team goes, and we'll talk more about my team when we break down the actual project, but I just want to kind of give you my my thoughts on the actual prompt itself. I like the prompt. I agree with the prompt. I frankly think that this should be the blueprint for theme park lands. I'm really sick of this whole like, oh, let's essentially make it like, like an outdoor mall with one big e-ticket to anchor it. Like, as much as I love Epic Universe, it does kind of fall victim to that a little bit, unfortunately. And I kind of feel like I kind of feel like we need to start like I want more supporting attractions. I think that's one of the things that Disneyland in particular does just incredibly well.
For sure. And I feel like Disney World has the next few projects are going to be using a kind of similar blueprint if they follow through on them.
Hopefully.
Like Monsters Inc. has the coaster, the show, and then a playground. And Tropical Americas has Indiana Jones, Encanto Dark Ride, Carousel.
True. That is true. Yeah.
If
so
nothing
we
gets
shall
cut.
see. All right. But yeah, I kind of struggle just because the ideas that my team were floating around, none of them were bad at all. It was just not really anything that I was super passionate about. My one hang up with Kirby, the idea that we did end up going with, is just the fact that honestly, at this point, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit burned out on Nintendo stuff already. I kind of feel like Nintendo is almost kind of becoming the new Muppets as far as like, okay, like I don't really want to do another Nintendo thing.
Yeah.
But I think we made it work. I was, and you know this, I was rather disappointed because I did really I had a vision for where the wild things are, man. I had a vision for that.
Which that would have definitely been a cool project. I don't think it would have worked out as well with your team, since that was not something other people were gelling with. But if this was like a solo round, I think you could have done really cool things with that.
I understand that, and that's that's kind of part of the challenge of team gameplay. Is like sometimes you get ideas that you're really passionate about, and just other people just aren't feeling it. Fortunately, I mean, I don't want to give anything away for the other teams, but let's just say like my team, this next round, the round that I'm commandeering, we landed on like a very like when Jokers threw out the name of what we're ultimately going with, I literally thought they were joking. I literally thought they were messing with me. But no, I mean it's like it's a very, very stupid niche thing and we're all on board for it. So sometimes it works out that way,
I think what will hopefully make it work is the fact that it's not you commandeering it. The whole team is into that ideal, despite the fact that it sounds like someone was throwing it out just as like bait for Tiki.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and like with Jokers, it's like I've kind of had this little mini arc with Jokers all season where it's like I'll throw out an idea and they'll kind of shoot it down. And it's nothing, I know it's nothing personal. I know they're not like doing it deliberately or anything, but that's kind of why I had my suspicions. I was like, are they messing with me?
No, Jokers, as its name suggests, does like the jokes. But I think this will be a fun one if y'all do it. There are also some other ideas still being discussed. I don't want to like comment anything too much till it's
No, I had a breakthrough about our idea earlier today. I think we're pretty on board for it at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are definitely cooking something crazy over on Team Citrus. That's for sure. Anyways, so let's get into the actual projects themselves. You're going to have to help me out with which teams did what, because I just have the lands.
That's okay. Also, always forget.
Okay.
But I have it up on my phone.
Give me 1 second. I just had Godzilla written down here, but I realize I should probably write down the name of the actual land.
It is Kaiju Kingdom by Team Luna.
That's right. So this team definitely I appreciate the idea. I do like the logic of like, because one thing I note right off the bat as far as like my notes go is they mentioned that like Godzilla might be the second most popular character to come out of Japan outside of Mario. That might be true, but I feel like Mario at this point is so Americanized that I really do feel like Godzilla is one of the biggest pop culture things to come out of Japan that's like still authentically Japanese. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like even when you get the more Americanized versions of Godzilla, there's all the essential Japanese version too going on.
Exactly.
And usually getting better reviews.
Yeah, most of the time, yes.
No,
yeah, I think really it was a smart IP choice, especially for Osaka.
Mm-hmm.
I think the team, like, I'm just gonna call a spade here. I think where the team really struggled was the detail department.
Yeah, so that was less their specific fault and more just a lot of bad luck on this team because Fosner dropped out like right after the round started, and then another player had to not drop out but step away for the week due to some personal issues. Another player went on vacation before they settled on the theme, so they weren't able to do it. And when there's only 6 players on the team, that left it more or less just 3 people doing everything.
So let's see, it was Priest and who else?
Priest, T-Cool, and Brea Panther.
Right.
With a little bit by Mr. Sullivan.
So, well, yeah, let's, I mean, I guess this is easy as far as, like, we can just break down, like, the ACE of it all.
Yeah.
So their A ticket is honestly my favorite thing in the land from a conceptual level, which is the Kaiju Museum. I love the idea of this.
Oh, yeah. It feels like a very classic Universal post-show exhibit, but done as its own standalone thing.
It's not to say I dislike any of the attractions. I think this one is just the one that I could kind of like picture in my mind's eye the most.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's so simple but works well with its simplicity.
Mm-hmm. Also, I really like the place building of this land with the the half destroyed boats, the harbor, the occasional giant Godzilla footprint. I could very clearly like visualize that in my head. Honestly, like that is one thing where even though the Stranger Things land had a lot more detail to it for sure, and I think with Kirby's Dream Land we had probably a little bit more of a clearer vision for what we wanted to do. Honestly, writing wise, like they might have had the best actual land description as far as like just I definitely like reading it. I could definitely just picture it in my mind's eye very easily.
Oh yeah. Brea Panther and T-Cool both did a fantastic job with describing a land, setting the scene, laying out the map in a very clear way. I've always said in like every competition I've done, it's come up at least once that it's not the amount of detail you have, it's what details you use. Yeah. And while this was a much shorter project, they got what they needed here. What I feel was missing more than detail was pluses like a cleaner presentation or some extra visuals to help. or
Sure.
other like little details to help sell the whole package.
All right, so we move on to the Mothra family coaster. Can you remind me what the name of that is?
Mothra Guardian Flight.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you. I
And
really
that
like
one
the
was
idea of,
by Tiki.
yeah, thank you. I really like the idea of using the greenhouse as kind of a transition, and the greenhouse almost kind of having this like weird kind of eternal, like half Japanese but kind of Americanized, like almost like out of time, in the same way that I've kind of been preaching design philosophy a couple different times in this game with using port of entry at Islands of Adventure as inspiration, where it's like, you know, it's kind of taking a variety of different styles and kind of jamming them together. I really like that for theme park world building.
Yeah, when it's done well, it's so effective and it's so transformative of the space.
Mm-hmm. I think the coaster is just all right, honestly. Like I'm not trying to shoot it down or anything. It's just a little short. It reminded me a lot of my Donkey Kong Bramble Blast coaster from the Sorcerer's Apprentice season, or I'm sorry, not Sorcerer's Apprentice, Vision's Fantastic season 1, the season 1 finale of that.
Yeah.
I thought it did a good job. Like I thought as a family coaster, it was good enough. You know, just a solid little coaster. I do think for Mothra, though, I kind of wanted to see a little bit more kind of fantastical elements. Maybe I don't know if you could get away with a little bit of a dark ride segment and still call it a C ticket. That's, you know, that's maybe kind of veering the line a little bit there. But I still think what they had was solid. I think a lot of the heavy lifting with the story definitely comes from the queue.
See, in my mind, what I think sold it and made it work was thinking of it less as a coaster and more as almost a faster people mover. It was less about the ride itself and more about zooming through the land and the gardens and that kind of fun swing through it.
So almost like a Pteranodon Flyers.
Yeah, that in my mind, at least, when I was reading it, that's kind of thing I was picturing was like
I can see
Pteranodon
that. I can see
Flyers
that.
or
Uh-huh.
the version of Pteranodon Flyers that they have in, I want to say, Universal Singapore. That's like a more in-depth ride, but still same kind of deal.
Dude, can I just say, like, and I know that we've gone over this before in my trip report,
Uh-huh.
that one ride that I got it on Pteranodon Flyers, that might have been like maybe a top 10 theme park moment for me. Like that shit was
Fantastic.
some magic, man. I will never forget the view of Skull Island that you get from that ride. You know, like you get to see like over the gates. Like, oh, it's so cool. And that ride
Hey,
just swings you like crazy. Like legitimately, I am not kidding. I was more scared on that ride than I ever am on Velocicoaster. I'm not
one
even
day
fucking
I'm just
making
gonna like adopt an orphan so I can go ride it and then use their 30-day return policy that I assume they have.
that up. Oh god.
I'm not gonna finish that joke. But no, like in my mind, as a Mothra ride or as a roller coaster, this would be a bit underwhelming. As something like a Pteranodon Flyers, I think it's perfect.
And I do think that Mothra does fit the Pteranodon Flyers mold pretty well, logically.
Yeah.
All right, and then finally we have the main Godzilla ride. Very, very clearly taking a lot of inspiration from Confrontation, which I am not like opposed to at all. I definitely
Yeah.
wish there was a little bit more detail here, and I think that the ride really would have been served to have it be at least one more animatronic encounter with Godzilla. Because honestly, as it stands now, I think it's a solid attraction. I just think my problem with it is that it kind of feels like it's on the level of like Kong Skull Island almost, where it's mostly screen based. You get one encounter with the animatronic at the end, and I would consider that like a solid D ticket. I don't quite think we're pushing up to E ticket territory here. And it's a very solid D ticket. I just, that would be my one nitpick.
I'll give you that as a fair nitpick. I feel like it could have been pushed a little more.
Uh-huh.
It's the type of thing where, oh, confrontation, but Godzilla. Sold. You barely need more than that sentence. But at the same time, you can do more than that and
In the
push it a
original
bit further,
confrontation, correct me
go
if
a bit
I'm wrong,
bigger.
the original confrontation had two different Kong animatronics, right?
I think it was two because I know
Yeah.
there's at least two because there's the one that would grab you and then the car would drop, and then there was the one at the end that you just kind of looked at like they have on Skull Island.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So yeah, overall pretty solid effort. Like you said, it's very much a quality over quantity project for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Any
Which
other
isn't
things?
necessarily a problem.
Yeah, sorry.
Isn't necessarily a problem, but also it's tough when you're competing with this one had 5 pages, and I think Strange Worlds got up to like 70.
85.
It's tough comparing them.
85.
85.
Yes. Which I have notes on. That is definitely like, it's kind of funny how I kind of feel like this being too short and Strange Worlds being too long. Like I'm not saying that ours is the best because it kind of meets in the middle, but I'm not saying that.
It's like Goldilocks. I get it.
Also, one more note I want to make on port of entry because I forgot to say this when we did my trip report and it fucking haunted me.
Yeah.
You know, so you remember I was complaining about the omnipresent Christmas music?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one spot that just broke my heart that they weren't playing the original music at all, and it was
Port
just
of
Christmas
entry.
music. Port of entry. Man,
Yeah.
and that was because I would literally fall asleep at night in anticipation for the trip listening to that goddamn music, man. Like, Port of Entry genuinely has some of the best theme park music ever, in my opinion.
It's an amazing soundtrack.
And not only that, but the Christmas music also drowns out all the little, like, fun side conversations going on in Port of Entry.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that Universal kind of needs to get their shit together when it comes. I feel like Disney Christmas is not nearly as immersion breaking as Universal Christmas is in some respects.
Yeah, like there's a lot Universal does great with Christmas, but the music playlist is not one of them, and the way they blend it into the existing park is also not one of them.
I mean, honestly, like even Grinchmas is a little bit too much. You know, it's like I kind of feel like with Grinchmas, it's like just have the show and have the meet and greet. You don't need the whole land to be like decked out in Christmas as much as it is. It's a little much. For me, it almost kind of takes away the charm of the original land a little bit for me.
I get that. I don't know if I would quite go as far to agree, but I also do fully understand where you're coming from.
It's not as big of a deal as Port of Entry, but I do think that like baseline Seuss Landing just hits a very distinct vibe for me that you just can't replicate when it's decked out in Christmas stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
And then yeah, the original park honestly does it okay. It just is a little bit omnipresent with like the Macy parade and the all the lights and everything. But I kind of feel like if there is a park for holiday stuff, it is that park. And Epic actually does do it tastefully. Epic does it in the way that I think Disney does it, where it's like the lands that it's appropriate for, like Potter and to a lesser extent How to Train Your Dragon, they'll have some Christmas stuff, but they're not going to deck it out everywhere. Celestial Park had some Christmas music in it, but it also had, the regular Celestial Park music loop, like worked into it as well. So I didn't feel like I was missing out there.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, I'll get to see it next year. Or this year. Have a Time Walks.
My strategy with Epic, honestly, would be just fucking go when it's supposed to rain.
Oh yeah. That's every park in Florida.
I mean, I realize that like that kind of takes you out of like some attractions like Stardust and Donkey Kong, but like fucking Mario Kart, Harry Potter, like if it's raining in that park, it's gonna empty out.
Yeah,
At
it
least
won't
that's
rain
been
all
my
day.
experience.
Plus, what you can do is I can do it on the same trip when I have that often, so that way I don't look weird playing all the Mario games, because I'm gonna do that either way.
Well, hey, now I was playing
I
the
gotta have
Mario
more help on
games.
my team. That clock one,
Oh,
can't
that
do
clock
that with
one's
not
impossible.
right. Anyways, B, I agree with you. Humility is for cowards. I second that. Speaking of
All right, with that in
humility,
mind, you want to transition into our project?
here's Kirby's Dream Land by
All
Team
right.
Stella.
So yeah, I mean, I'm like, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Kirby fan per se, just because I just think the games are a little too easy. But I do like Kirby as a franchise. I kind of feel I have a very similar feeling with Kirby that I do to Pokemon, where I honestly think the spin-off games kind of shine a little bit more for me. Hence why I decided to base my flat ride exclusively on a spin-off game. But I think there is a lot of room for Kirby. I do really like, I wish we would have gone into a little bit more detail on it, but generally speaking, I do really like the design aesthetic that we landed on, of like the naturalistic rolling green hills and water features and stuff. Like, it's whimsical and playful like Super Nintendo World, but it's not nearly as much of a sensory overload.
Yeah, this feels like a Nintendo themed land that I could relax in and spend time in. Where as much as I love Mario, that is a go, 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 because you stop for a second, your brain's gonna just shut down like you're watching Subway Surfer TikTok videos.
The only exception to that is Yoshi, which I think is peak.
Yeah. But as much as we talked earlier about like Nintendo almost starting to feel like Muppets, I think the big difference is there's so many things you can do with Nintendo that's not just Nintendo. And I think choosing a specific property like Kirby helped it a lot, because I don't think I've ever seen a full Kirby land, just like one ride
I don't think
in a
so. Yeah,
general
yeah.
Nintendo area. What was
Mhm.
that? Yeah.
I said, yeah, I agree. I don't think we have seen a full Kirby land.
So I think where this project shined the best is where it felt like a Kirby land, and where it was not bad, but less exciting for me is where it felt like another Nintendo land.
Yeah. And so you're saying the mini games in particular, then?
I don't have like an issue with them. I just would have liked to see more to make them specifically Kirby. But I do just love a land with interactive elements. I think having an interactive game was a great call, as well as using up the power up bands since you already have them and collecting power ups. I just want to see more with it that was uniquely Kirby. Like, what if it was a puzzle where once you had a fire power up, then you could go somewhere else with
Copy
ice power up.
abilities. That's how you do it.
Yeah. And I think another thing I called out, we'll get to it when we get to the e-ticket, but it being a racing game where the queue is the castle of the enemy. Things like that that felt less like this is what we should do for Kirby, and more like, well, this is what Mario Land is like, so let's have another Nintendo Land.
Yeah, if I was designing the air ride coaster, I definitely wouldn't have gone that route with the exterior for sure.
Yeah. Though again, that being said, it worked out really nicely. Like, what did feel like a perfect Kirby experience. So I don't know if my criticism is founded, if my criticism is just comparing it to something that's not even in that state.
Or just you being a jaded theme park fan who's seen everything at this point.
Yeah. Oh, your ride has a track? Ugh, that's almost as overdone as a ride without a track.
Dude, are you kidding me, man? In the age of trackless dark rides that break down constantly, rides actually having tracks are freaking selling points with me.
If they just made another dark ride with the exact same ride system as the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, I'd be so happy.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you kind of touched on the A ticket with the interactive elements. You want to talk about
Yeah.
tilt and tumble?
Oh yeah, I think I mentioned it. The engineer in me wants more details on the physics of how it works safely in a
Mhm.
kids park, but also the theme park fan and all was like, "Yay, fun!" I I mentioned this in the review, and I mentioned this last time. I think what Team Stella really excels at is how good the entire team is at getting on the same page of what the tone of the writing is going to be,
Mhm.
and selling the tone of the land and the tone of the writing and having that be consistent. Everything I read made me feel like, "Aw, yay, happy." And I think with the flat ride serving as like part of the environment, y'all did a great job selling that. And I see
Mhm.
B saying they won't think of Mario Kart, which honestly, I'm not surprised if you won't think of Mario Kart, because as much as it is very similar, it also is, if I was starting from scratch with a Kirby land, what I would do. Because it's Kirby Air Riders. That's fun. But yeah, no, Tilt and Tumble, loved it as a flat ride. And I think it sounds like a really fun and playful. And playful is what I wanted from a Kirby land.
So I got to give credit to LEB for a couple things. I think they're like the activity level from them is maybe the best that I have literally ever seen
They've been
so
killing
far
it
in this
this game. They're a
competition.
front runner so far.
I really do think so. Yeah. So they had some really solid leadership this past round, and then more importantly, though, I really respect them for standing up and taking the reins on the coaster ride up during the third project, even though I'm usually the coaster guy. That kind of forced me into a different role than I was comfortable with, but that's okay because it's, you know, it's a learning experience. It's probably good that I got a, because honestly, Pi, if I could have, I would have spent the whole season just doing coaster stuff, honestly.
I know, that's your
So
bread and butter. Not in a
so
bad
it
way.
was
That's
good
just
to
your comfy place.
yeah, it was good to break me out of that for sure. But I did take inspiration from LEB's writing of the coaster, where for me it wasn't when I was writing out the tilt and tumble thing, and maybe this is why the logistics didn't come up as much. I wasn't worried about explaining it as much as I was worried about kind of like giving the readers a description of what it would be like to like walk up to this thing and see it in motion. Because I think for any good flat ride, it's just as important how a flat ride works as a visual kinetic piece of the land as opposed to actually riding it. Like, for example, I think Dragon Racer Rally at Epic Universe is a perfect example of that. I rode it once and I will probably never ride it again. But that being said, I still think it works as a piece of kinetic energy within that land. It's, you know, they explain the whole structure in universe, so it's not like you have to you know, use your imagination for it. It's just it's there, it exists in the universe, it exists in world, and I think it's really cool. So I was trying to give that same sort of idea. I really like the idea of, you know, the moving platform, the clouds. Clouds are obviously a pretty signature visual motif of Kirby. Also, the tilt and tumble, I believe that was a Game Boy Color game. And the big gimmick with Tilt and Tumble is that it had a motion chip built into the actual cartridge, which
Oh,
provided the game.
yeah.
Yeah, which provided the game with the actual like motion control gameplay. So it very much was like a Wii game before the Wii. Like it really was very kind of groundbreaking in that regard. And I remember it coming out and being kind of blown away by it. So I just figured, you know, it just made a lot of sense. I always like the idea of going back and kind of reviving old flat ride concepts. Like you never really see anything about tilt-a-rolls anymore. And I was like,
No.
okay, let's do a tilt-a-roll, but let's do one that like people would genuinely you know, would genuinely be excited to ride, not just like, oh, here's just another off-the-shelf tilt-a-roll. Let's go.
No, I think you did a really good job with that. And I am a huge defender of flat rides, both in real life and on the forum. For the same reason you said, if they're done well, they can be a centerpiece of a land and they can be such a fun ride. So
Mhm.
that's why I was really happy seeing this flat ride and seeing you go all out with it. I think it turned out really well.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
The one note I do have with Air Ride, and it's a good note, is that I really like how the ride interacts with the Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah.
Kind of makes that into like a set piece in its own right.
No, it did a great job with how it interacted with the land, having a good balance between some like dark ride elements and show scenes without being like overwhelmingly feeling like you have to keep stopping for scenes.
Mm-hmm. And I did pitch the ride system. So what do you think of that? Basically, like incorporating the cliffhanger flat ride into a coaster track.
I think that was a really fun idea. I like,
Kind of like a slightly different variation on a B&M flying coaster.
yeah, but one that's not too intense for the park it's in. It was definitely
Mm-hmm.
pushing the line, but I feel like it did never cross that line. I feel like B did a good job in the write up, not making it sound too intense, even with that setup. That it worked really well.
Yeah, totally. No pretzel loops that are gonna rip your face off.
Exactly. And just in
Right.
general, like we mentioned, B's been really stepping up this game. Not that they were ever like bad in past games, but they've stepped up to be like one of the leaders of the pack so far.
In past games, they were good when they showed up, but their activity could be pretty inconsistent.
Yeah, but so far they've been one of the most active.
Mm-hmm. Probably more active than me, honestly.
Possibly. I like that what we've been hearing from everyone, now I'm seeing B's comment, is that no one seems to be a huge Kirby fan on this team. Y'all just like the idea of Kirby.
I mean, I just kind of feel like with Kirby, it's one of those things with, and this is not necessarily my favorite type of armchair Imagineering thing to work on, but it's just kind of like, I feel like Kirby was probably like the second or third choice from a lot of people, but nobody's first choice, if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
our
but it
first
just
choices were
made
all
so
over
much
the place,
sense.
so yeah.
Exactly. Your first places were all over the place, and it just made so much sense, especially once you threw out the idea of doing it in the kids' park.
Right,
Plus, I feel like
exactly.
there's a lot of people who, even if they aren't huge Kirby fans, like the idea of Kirby. It's almost like Hello Kitty in that way, where I don't even know. I'm assuming there was a Hello Kitty like TV show at some point, but everyone I know just kind of knows all the Hello Kitty characters and was like, "Oh yeah, that one's my favorite. It looks cute."
Right. I can see that. Yeah. Let's see. And yeah, I think so I think just by and large with us landing on Kirby, it was one of those things. It was less so like what can we do as a passion project and more so like what can we do where everyone on the team is actually gonna at least be okay with doing it.
Yeah.
um
And also, last thing to say on Kirby is we almost got to mention the Dream Buffet, the restaurant by Disneyland One. It's just really cute. There's not
yeah.
much more to say other than that. It's just really cute. Yay. Kirby happy. That's my really well thought out review. Yay.
All right. And yeah, I will say though, people keep threatening to do Fallout, and if they do that, man, I don't know. That might be a point where I check out a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie. It's not even that I dislike Fallout. I really don't. My main problem with Fallout is that at this point, it's like there's so much lore behind that series at this point that I almost kind of feel like it'd be almost impossible for me to have a meaningful contribution to that without really going into like a whole deep dive on it.
See, in my mind, I feel like Fallout would hit kind of similarly to, I don't know if you remember, I forget what So You Want to Be Imagineer this was. I want to say like 18, where the first round was to do an Epic Universe portal back when it was under construction. And the team I was on did Mad Max. And I saw Fury Road once in theaters. I liked it. It was good. It looked good, visual spectacle. Didn't really think about it much since then. Never watched anything else from Mad Max. And all of a sudden we were doing it, and I was in charge of land details and I think, the E-ticket or the D-ticket in it. So I just kind of approached it less of I'm trying to do Mad Max and more, well, what's the vibe that people like about Mad Max? And I feel like with Fallout, that's kind of what you'd have to do, is less what story in Fallout or setting or lore, and more, here's the vibe people like about Fallout. Here's a post-apocalyptic, things held
I
together.
guess so, but even then, it's just
warriors.
kind of like the vibe of Fallout for me is just like, okay, it's post-apocalyptic, like so is so many other things. That's kind of my issue.
Yeah, so let's do post-apocalyptic cowboys. I forget what the project was and who all was on team, but I remember it was at least me and Tegan. I think Sorcerer's Apprentice did post-apocalyptic Frontierland, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh no, that was a really good one for sure, for sure.
Just do that, but put Nuka-Cola cans everywhere.
Oh God. All right. No, and honestly, it is one of those things where it's like I've been meaning to check out the Amazon show. I just don't have a lot of time, and the first episode didn't grab me. That's not to say that the rest of it's just, again, it's just one of those things when I watched the Amazon show, it just kind of felt like, just throwing a lot of shit at the wall at the same time in kind of quick succession for me. So I don't know. Anyways, we're not here to talk about potential future projects. So you want to move on to the project? Yeah, you want to move on to the next one?
I think that sounds good. It gets stranger, which I think was such a clever Portal quote.
I do really like that Portal quote. Yes.
Team Helios, and I am scrolling and scrolling because I do not remember the name of the land, and the project does not read as well.
Worlds.
Yes, that.
Which, low key, I think my biggest nitpick with this whole land should have been Stranger Worlds, not Strange Worlds, because there's a connotation with Strange Worlds.
Yeah, with that already being a movie and with Stranger being the name of Stranger Things, I think I agree that one change would have definitely helped.
But seriously, though, this was fantastic. Like, genuinely, I think this is easily like the absolute best project by and large of the season so far. Would you agree to that?
I think so. Yeah, like they nailed it. Like I said in my reviews, the only real like nitpicks I had were either little things or mostly just came from that's a lot for an A ticket, that's a lot for a C ticket.
Right.
But outside of that context, just looking at the project itself, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea itself. I just think, with Stranger Things dealing with interdimensional like science mumbo jumbo and stuff like that, I just think it makes a lot of sense to have the potential for like a multiverse weird crossover thing. And so it just very naturally fit. And I think all the IPs that are represented here fit very well in with each other. Like, so let's see. The main three are Five Nights at Freddy's, Stranger Things, and It. But then you also have stuff like Freddy and Jason and Chucky, and that's just in the e-ticket. But I really like how, kind of threw you for a loop a little bit. I really like how that's almost like a surprise inclusion in its own right.
And don't forget The Shining. I really love the idea of the icon being the Overlook Hotel split in half on the dimensional rift with the Haun's lab.
Sure. So yeah, really good stuff there. Let's see.
And not to go too like behind the scenes, but a lot of that was pretty last minute. Like things just kind of the last like 2 days. I think it was the second to last day is when they came up with the interdimensional rift as more of a visual design, and the ride came together in like 2 hours with like 4 people walking together.
Oh, nice.
The like e-ticket ride.
Uh-huh.
They were so in sync that once they start going, they just walked as like one person.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the big strengths of the e-ticket ride is I love the ride system. I love the idea of doing the ET bikes, but on Kuka arms. Like that to me,
Yes.
it's like it's a cool twist on the ET ride. It's a cool, like I love the idea of doing a Kuka arm dark ride where the movement doesn't necessarily have to be intense, but it's still really fun and it's still really dynamic, offers that dynamic range of movement. So I was just very impressed just in that regard with with what they were pulling off there.
Oh yeah, such a clever idea, yet also felt like so obvious once it was said. It's like, oh yeah, of course that's what it would be.
Mm-hmm. All right, but yeah, I do. I will say, I think Freddy makes sense. I think Freddy being there does make sense. He's very 80s, and he's obviously like Stranger Things. Like Vecna was very inspired by Freddy. I do think that I don't think it derails the ride at all, but I do think throwing in Jason and Chucky into the equation maybe was a little bit too far. Like maybe was just a little bit kind of like flying too close to the sun a little bit.
See, I went back and forth with that myself because on one hand, I feel like it would have been a lot cleaner and a lot simpler if it was here's Five Nights at Freddy's. Now we're going through the dreamscape with Nightmare on Elm Street, and now it's Stranger Things. But on the
Mhm.
other hand, having that mashup, oh, now everyone's here attacking you, does add a real like, oh, this went from a quiet ride to intense and crazy. Here's a bunch of things coming at you.
Right, right, right. No, that
It,
makes sense for sure.
so, like, I get what you're saying, and I kind of agree. I went back and forth on that more than once on whether or not I thought it was too much or not.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, I think starting with Five Nights at Freddy's was kind of an inspired choice though, because it's like I like the fact that like as you're walking through the land, you kind of already get the sense that like that Five Nights at Freddy's is established in this universe just because you probably walk by the restaurant like on your way to the land, you know.
Yeah.
But I do like how it is kind of like it's a little bit implied, but then boom, right off the bat, you're in it. Although I will say, if I do have a nitpick here, it's that I do think the Five Nights at Freddy stuff maybe goes on a little bit too long.
I mentioned that same thing in the review that as much as I like it, and I like the atmospheric slow start, it was a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's when most of the other icons got like, and now I'm Chucky, bye.
Right, right, right. Yeah. All right. Like honestly, I kind of feel like weirdly the thing that kind of got the short end of the stick the most in the Stranger Things ride was Stranger Things.
Ooh, a little bit.
All
For
right,
me, it kind of
let's
works because I haven't cared about Stranger Things in a while. But I do feel like having the big animatronic at the end does make it, even if it's a shorter section, a good standout moment.
sure, sure, definitely, definitely. So you're not part of the crowd that thinks that there's going to be the leaked ninth episode on Super Bowl Sunday during the halftime show. That's when Conspiracy Gate is really going to crack wide open pie.
No, I think they're gonna do a 10th episode and just not explain what the ninth episode was.
Oh God.
Though
All
it
right.
will feature Five Nights at Freddy's.
I would love that.
Yeah, what Ace is saying about love the idea of Stranger Things, but nobody wanted to write it. That was one of the biggest things that slowed this team down. Is they built their land around an e-ticket that no one claimed, so they just had to like on the fly be like, "All right, what do we do here?" And I
Uh-huh.
feel like that's my issue with Stranger Things, the franchise, is the idea of it is so good. But once you've gone down to 5 seasons and every episode is a feature-length movie,
Oh man,
it's
yeah.
tough to stay invested. But the idea of it, perfect.
Yeah, I feel
Which
that for
makes it
sure.
a great fit for a theme park, because a lot of times the idea and the atmosphere is what you need.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because it's like I sort of feel like with Stranger Things, we got this like right as the show was hitting kind of a low point with fan perception. You know, it did like I don't think it ended nearly as badly as something like Game of Thrones did, but a lot of people are kind of on that kind of wavelength about it.
Yeah, which from what I've heard, it was kind of all right. Like it wasn't bad. Because they didn't really know how they were gonna end it, so it didn't end as well as it could have.
Right, yeah. Although I will say, like, if you watch the documentary and the Duffer Brothers documentary they put out, it's ridiculous that they basically like had no plan, like from the jump, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Which isn't
they
surprising.
wasted all that time that they had in between seasons, and they just came up with fuck all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a recent Drew Gooden video going into it that was really funny to watch.
Oh yeah,
but I'm sure it will all be fixed once
like,
the secret
that's where I
episode
got
comes
that
out.
statistic from. That's where I got the Drew Gooden statistic from. That's where I got the behind the scenes facts from, where I did see that same Drew Gooden video, and that's where I'm picking it up from. Yeah.
But enough about Stranger Things itself. More about Stranger Things, the land. It.
Yeah.
Unless you have more to say about the e-ticket.
No, I'm good.
Right.
I honestly think that Le Cirque Canoe might be my absolute least favorite attraction in Epic Universe.
I didn't watch it. From what I've seen, it doesn't seem super impressive. In theory, though, the idea of a circus show in a theme park, that sounds better.
I hate the pre-show.
Yeah, the pluribus. Woo!
I hate the pre-show. That's all I'll say about Le Cirque Canoe. I fucking hate the pre-show.
That's fair. I have not watched the video or anything, so I can't say, but I have heard that from other people.
Yeah. I think the show was maybe a little bit too ambitious for its own good.
Yeah, like it works as a show, but for what it's trying to be, I feel like focusing on a smaller scale would have tightened it up a little bit. But also, everything they do is so cool that I don't want to say what to cut, but also focused, I think, would have been better.
Sure, yeah.
It reminds me, I don't know if you read the other team's project on the Lost Continent round, but the Headless Horseman coaster, where there was all these great show scenes, and all the scenes were so cool. Also, there was like twice as many scenes as there needed to be. It's like Avatar Fire and Ash, where there was a great 90-minute movie and a still pretty good 3-hour movie.
Oh man, Avatar Fire and Ash is just like, I mean, I've gone on about it before, but my main issue with that is just that, like, instead of getting the fire Avatar movie, we just got water again.
Yeah. It should have ended with the raid on the military base that also resolved the Fire Tribe storyline.
Sure.
Like, we didn't need to then go back to the Water Tribe. But I digress.
So I do like how this show does kind of pick up on the Pennywise lore quite a lot.
Yeah. But in a way that doesn't feel like unwelcoming, because I never did watch Welcome to Derry, but I can see this and still vibe with it even without having watched that.
For sure. I don't really have a ton of notes. Like I said, I just think that from plot point of view, I just think it's doing maybe a little bit too much. But then again, I literally feel the same way about Le Cirque Canoe, where it's like, okay, is this like a straight circus show? Is it a show about animal cruelty? Is it a straight up like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them stage show? Like like that show is also kind of doing too much at once.
Yeah. But at least everything this one does is very cool. I love the shadow of the giant Pennywise on the circus stand. I think that's such a good visual to kind of kick it off.
Totally.
But Yeah, next up would be the A ticket, the Shining walkthrough, Night at the Overlook, Space Mountain. And Space
Yeah,
Mountain,
again, I don't have a lot of notes for this. I just think it's a solid idea.
yeah, a little much for an A ticket. I think there's even a quote in there about an advanced animatronic. And I usually think of A ticket being mostly statues. But
Like Tarzan's
it,
treehouse status.
yeah. But also just judging
Uh-huh.
it as what it is, it's Space Mountain writing a walkthrough. Like it's gonna be amazing. He's so good at the exact skills you need to write a good walkthrough.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I like it
And
quite a bit for sure.
yeah.
I I think if I had one nitpick with it, it's that I don't necessarily think The Shining fits into the small town kind of like 1980s Americana vibe that the rest of the land has.
Yeah. I felt that more in the brainstorming than in the final project where they had the multiverse kind of mashup. But I definitely in
Right.
the brainstorming was very worried about that and still a little bit because what makes The Shining scary is the isolation. And what makes the suburbia 80s horror scary is that you're not isolated, but no one believes you.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
I do
Yeah,
really love it
that's
emptying into the restaurant, though. I think that was really fun and a great transition to Outbound's bar and dining area.
uh-huh, definitely, definitely. And again, I mean, let's make the point that this thing is 85 pages long or something like that, which guys, maybe a little too long for like, a singular land.
A little bit.
I
It
kind of
didn't
feel like
fully.
this is where we're running into the issue of like, maybe a little bit more detail than what the Godzilla project was able to do, but I don't know. I feel like this is going almost too much in the opposite direction of that.
uh, Yeah. It's one of those things. This is why I try not to do three teams, but sometimes there's enough players you kind of need to. Because when you get to three projects and they're this length, which people get excited and get carried away. I don't want to fault them for being excited and passionate. But also, this is a third project I read. People at Starbucks are giving me weird looks while I'm writing
Oh
reviews because
God.
I'm there so long.
Uh-huh.
But everything here is very strong. Just could have been smaller and less detailed overall because some things get lost in all the detail.
But that being said, I mean, I honestly like completely agree with your ruling. I do think that this is clearly the best of the three, and not just
It,
because it's the most detailed. I just think it's the most original concept that's the most fleshed out.
oh,
Like
yeah.
Kirby just kind of feels like it was literally like how real life Imagineering works, where it's like a team, and we're like, all right, we might not be that passionate about this idea, but damn it, we're gonna make it work. Whereas these guys, they really went all out. It truly did feel like a passion project.
Oh, 100%. They went all out. They worked together so well. It sold it. And
All
even like the
right.
small details that I don't have as much to say, like the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria, the Family Video Store, they both work really well too. Uh, I do want to just half cartoon, half human. I like that you're engaging more and participating more with the pizzeria, but the more you work closer with your team, the more it's going to help elevate your projects. Because what you have here is a great FNAF pizzeria in a vacuum. But if you did more to blend it with the tone the rest of your team was doing, I feel like you could have elevated it by focusing on like the darker aspects or the more suburban horror and kind of blend it into that tone rather than the more family friendly we have Freddy meet and greet tone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's my big advice to half cartoon, half human. Of after seeing a few rounds, is if you walk closer with your team and more in tandem with them, I think it's going to help you a lot. You got some talent. You just got to blend it.
He has yet to show up in my brainstorming thread, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Him
He
and
has not been
Aiden
the most
Rodriguez.
active, but he should show up. He's usually around at least.
I have a feeling that this next project, just because the three of us jumped on it so freaking quickly, it's probably going to be me, Lizzie, and Joker's doing the majority of the work on it.
Yeah, there's a chance.
We'll see how it shakes out. I'll make sure I'll make sure everyone at least has something to do if they want it.
Well, not to spoil anything, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see a Eat, Pray, Love themed Vekoma hypercoaster.
Oh, you know it. Vekoma hypercoaster specifically, yes, because Vekoma is definitely known for building hypercoasters, not Intamin or B&M.
Yeah, I didn't just say words.
All right. Well, we are just past an hour. I think that's a good place to sign off, right?
I think so. Thank y'all for playing so far. Thank y'all for tuning in. It's been a fun game so far. I've really been enjoying it, and I hope y'all have been too.
Yeah, thanks to LEB, Ace, I believe those are the only two in the comments. Yeah. Well, hey, you
There was
guys are the
also
real ones.
Sonia at one point.
Yeah, Sonia Pinto, she pops up just every so often.
Nice.
She kind of like floats between the tribes, if you will. She kind of pops up for a little bit of everything.
Nice. That's fun.
All right. Okay. Have a good night, y'all. And who knows when we're going to be able to do the next one, but we will be back whenever our schedules align once again.
Woo.
All right. Later.